Hello, welcome to Carnivore Team GB. And as you can see, we've got four dudes and Richard there. Not saying four dudes and Richard, four dudes. And that was Richard there with his microphone going in.
I think all
right.
was.
Here we are. And first, I think we should say to Ben, congratulations on doing your challenge and doing a daily blog. Under whatever circumstances. I mean, that's real dedication to the cause, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so go and sign up at bigfat.substack.com if you want to follow that. It's interesting, I'm loving it. I'm really loving it, and it really helps with the the discipline as well to have a structure like that, to say, okay, I am doing this as a scientific experiment. So basically, I'm doing 90 days, really strict carnivore, and so no alcohol, no tobacco, no anything, no, beef, lamb. Oh, I had some salmon for my lunch as well today, just to mix things up a little bit. Salt and water, and see how we go. It's been really interesting. Honestly, one of the biggest things so far is sleep. My sleep is transformed. And I don't know how much of that is just giving up coffee, but I've never slept this well in a long time. So,
that's probably down to dropping the coffee, I would imagine. But also everything else you're saying that you're doing. And do you feel, because you're going public, which is sort of putting pressure on yourself, do you feel that's being helpful because you're sort of accountable now to the audience?
Yeah, well, I'm one of these people that I'm not a very good moderator. I think for me, I need a big hairy-assed goal to hit, to shoot, swing at. So yeah, I think having that is great, and people waiting. So we're getting 1,000 people opening these short videos. I just do like a 2-minute video each day. And that's just on Substack alone. Then I upload it to Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. So, yeah, it seems to be going down all right anyway. Because look, the thing is, I've been coaching this for a year, and the transformation in my physique between 1st of January 2023, when we started, and 1st of January 2024 was remarkable. I must have lost a couple of stone in that year, being kind of dirty carnivore 90%. But here's the thing, I'm like working with Anthony Chafee at the moment and going through his story about how amazing he felt and all that kind of stuff. I need to experience that so that I've got a data point that I can compare to. If I've never experienced it for myself, how can I know whether there's another level to reach, right? And then at the end of 90 days, if I want to go back to pizza and crisps and ice cream, then that's my choice as well. But at least then it's a much more informed choice. And I really do think that on our challenge, that's what we want to be moving towards, because we've been very kind of laissez-faire previously. No, that you there's only one way, isn't there? There's only one way to know what it's like, and I want to discover for myself if there's another level of humanity to reach. And another big part of it as well, which has come through in a lot of my videos, has been how not going for a carb thing or a drink or a cigarette, it leaves you there feeling all your feelings, And
that's a good thing, is that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing at first?
It's a thing. Look, I think most of us are stuck in a kind of almost like infantile frame of mind or emotional state where, I don't want to start feeling something. I best, I want to, go back on the nipple kind of thing. So give me something to put in my mouth, a cigarette or, whatever. It's like, that's basically what it is. You know, I want a suckle. I want something to say, poor baby, it's okay.
Right. Well,
you're a man, whatever, you know, step up, go on.
Yeah, talking of which, I mean, we should mention that Jonathan's not here. In case you're wondering if Jonathan's going to be turning up, he's not.
Where's Jonathan today?
I think he's having a checkup or something.
Yeah. I remember.
After his surgery.
Yeah.
Let's say hello to him.
I barely made it back myself. I got in about 15 minutes ago. It's traffic jams and stuff. I had a rehearsal. I've been playing drums 6 hours today. I'm trashed. And then it was rush hour on the M6. And it was, oh God.
He's having a scan on his hip, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's it. Yes. Let's go through the messages so we're nice and up to date. And I need Jonathan because he can pronounce a name. I think it's Zabigny. Anyway, hi folks.
Oh, before that, can I just get a quick little plug that please, you know, if you want to come to our War on Health conference, please check it out. Sign up, waronhealth.uk. That's all, not co.uk, just .uk. And I've had a great time this week because I've had Doc Malik, who's speaking on my podcast, and it was beautiful. It was really lovely. Have a look on my YouTube channel or Red Pill Buddhas on podcast platforms and whatever. Really, really heartfelt chat we had, and just what the NHS have done to him, and just you know, trashing his whole career just for speaking out against this crap. And I had Rachel Brown on as well, talking about the connection between diet and mental health. And yesterday, it's not released yet, I had Sarah Pugh on, and she's just so much fun. She's great. She's so naughty, but she's speaking too. And you know, her knowledge, you know, of all the quantum stuff and the light, water, magnetism, and she's even did we know she was a stage hypnotist. So she can sort of make people believe that they've got talking testicles and whatever. So I said that that's going to be the entertainment for the evening on the Saturday, January the 20th. So if anybody wants to come along and teach their testicles how to talk, Sarah's your girl. But yeah, check it out. And not only that, but I'm hoping that Stephen and Richard are both going to be there. And I'm going to actually hassle Richard this week to get him on my podcast as well before that goes out, because I just want to hear more about this story. You know, I was actually on one of our breaks in the rehearsal today. I was showing them your photo. I was like, do you know this dude used to be really type 2 diabetic and pretty chumpy and couldn't get up the stairs and stuff. Look at this transformation. So I need to hear about that. But you know, come along and meet all four of us and the other speakers and Natasha Campbell McBride. And yeah, can't wait to meet you guys. Well, I've met Stephen and I know Ben, of course, but I didn't see you at the Sheffield thing, and so we didn't get a nice hug. You know,
do you know
I love hugging away with you know, ripped, muscly men. So.
Oh well, do you know, I'm half the size that I was in that picture behind me, and that is a real.
You're probably still twice the size I am.
Do you know, I'm wasting away this running and cycling malarkey. It's a different world. I thought that I could maintain some of the size coming into it, but you begin to become over competitive or just competitive, really. But and every pound on that run and bike makes a difference. So it's yeah, I'm incredibly small, but I'll love to come on the podcast.
Small. It's funny actually, because I showed you a pic to the bass player, you know, and he's going, no, he's full of gear. He's jacked up on everything. I said, no, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so.
When I was competing, I used to compete in tested and non-tested competitions. So the reason I competed in the non-tested, but I was competing on the same week and weeks around that in the tested, was because prize money was higher in the tested, in the non-tested. So I won competitions clean, and I competed clean in competitions where people were supplementing. And in fact, there were 3 guys, including myself, who competed in the British Championship a few years ago, who were all clean, and all 3 of us were keto. I won the Middlesbrough Championship. It was the Middlesbrough Championship before the British, and the other two guys were in the same category, and they came first and second. So the three ketogenic people or competitors out of all of these hundreds of competitors, the only three people who weren't supplementing, I've only got their word that they weren't, but when you talk to them, they are on the same level as us in regards to what goes into their body. You know, these guys don't use toothpaste and stuff, and you know, you don't inject or take substances if you don't brush your teeth with toothpaste. You know, it's and one of them was a police officer. So make of that what you will, but he was a proper gentleman, and he won his age category as well. But it's yeah, that was fun. But the things you can achieve through living this lifestyle are unparalleled, and this is why we live it, isn't it? You know. But yeah, love to come on the podcast, and yeah, we can chat off air about the 20th. I've popped a link just in the chat there as well. It's probably gone up a few things in regards to the War on Health conference on the 20th. So if you scroll up, that is there for you to see.
Marvelous. Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Steve, you're still muted.
Yeah, there you go. It's a big new. Hi, folks. Have a nice evening. And great advice here is hit the like button. So, yeah, if you could do that, that would be fantastic. Don't forget to subscribe to every channel of the people on the screen, if you can. Rick's here doing his quack because he likes his duck food. We've got Once a Week Man, good evening, gentlemen. Meatastic, good evening, fellow meat lovers. That's good. And we've got Tom J, of course, saying good evening. Living Carnivore UK. And we have also Jane, hi from the UK. So lots and lots of UK people. And I think we had a really nice comment about, there's Matthew. Hi, Team GB and everyone watching, which is good. Andrew, hi, guys. Thank y'all. I think that's how you say it. But this was a nice message for Ben after that start, which is Printing Stamps London, which might be a company, I think. Hi, I'm Carnivore. I know I've not been XL. I've cut out alcohol, which is a big thing for me, and your videos have really helped, Ben. So I've been facing those pesky feelings like a grown-up. Thanks. And I thought that was very insightful of you, actually, Ben, to say that you're facing up to your feelings. I think that is excellent. In fact, that's something I'm going to talk about in coaching a bit more, because that's exactly what we're doing if we go for a Snickers bar or a pizza or something that, to lift you up. I think that's great. What else have we got? We got Rick. I think you have turned the corner. You have some great friends to encourage you. Yeah, so that's cool. Once a Week Man. It's not all good on the carnivore lifestyle. There you go. I met a couple of women I hadn't seen in a while, and they remarked that I was half the man I used to be. Yes. Well, that's what Richard just said, wasn't it? He feels a lot smaller. There you go. I've heard that some people have been cured of tinnitus on carnivore. Yep. Jane, me. That's one.
This is an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I've had kind of low-level tinnitus I've been aware of it for about 3 or 4 years now. It might have gone on before, but yeah, I'm interested in that. I wonder why. I don't know. One thing I have noticed is a lot less earwax. I thought that I got a lot more kind of earwax production when I was dirty carnivore and having dairy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's gone.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking about this today. This is really weird. Not about you, Ben, obviously, because that would be a bit weird. But I was talking to my wife about last night. I did a very late podcast with Craig Emmerich and Robert Kiltz. And I was up at 2:00 in the morning doing it because the American time is, different. So she went to bed with earplugs in, which really messed up because she's been trying mouth taping. Now, the ear, nose and throat is all connected. And what you were just saying about the earwax, when you put hearing aids in, bacteria goes up by about 800 times in 8 hours. Nice and easy numbers to remember, because your ears and wax is part of your detox process. So she's been doing the mouth taping and having incredibly good results up until last night when she put ear plugs in. And it was terrible. She woke up and she said that was terrible. I had a terrible night's sleep. And I said, that's because you kept the earplugs in even once I'd stopped, because she was asleep. You know, what I should have thought of is, you know, popping them out without, you know, waking her up. And that's one of the things that you do get. You do get a lot of detoxification. Why you lose the tinnitus is a lot to do with systemic inflammation, or localized inflammation, I should say, because you use station tubes are nice and clear, so the pressure equalizes better. And you will find that things like your earwax production might actually ramp up at first as you detox, and then get less and less and less. So one of the things I think, you know, it's sort of good data is, I've had these hearing aids a long time, and I used to have to change the wax guard, like in the ear things, ever such a lot. And it was only recently I realized, not ever such a lot. Let's give you some real figures. So like once every 2 weeks. Now, recently I thought, oh, my hearing's not as good as it was. I've had to turn up my app on my phone so I can hear a bit better. And I realized I hadn't changed the wax guard for about a year. That's the difference. So it'd gone from 2 weeks to really being noticeable after a year. So producing a lot less wax and hearing slightly better. So yeah,
I think I might have an earwax deficiency, because I've never had it really. And you know, we're in bands, when you get in-ear monitors and they kind of pour stuff in your ear to get the perfect fit to these really expensive in-ear monitors and whatever. And everybody else has got these, you've got these little tools for clearing the wax out. And they're like, I can't hear anything. I've got to clear all this shit out of my in-ear monitors. Never had that. I've had them since like 2006, and I've never had any earwax in them. I think there's something wrong with me. I need more earwax. But I can't, earplugs, I can't sleep with them. I hear my heart all the time. Do you get that? When you try to sleep with earplugs, I can't do that.
Well, I've never had earplugs in, because that would be a catastrophe for me.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I can't hear. I mean, I can't sleep in my hearing aids. Obviously, firstly, they're too small, and secondly, that was a joke. You can't sleep in your hearing aids. But anyway, yeah, I have to take them out because they're so uncomfortable, and my ears need a break. But going back to the question, which is about tinnitus, yeah, that's definitely something. That's a thing that's happened in carnivore quite a bit. I've had a few people report back to me, and I think once you go out there public and say mine literally went completely one day. Possibly it'd been going like that. You know, the absence of something is something you don't notice until you think about it, if you know what I mean. So I was just out one day, and I said to Jane, "Can you hear that?" And she says, "No." What can you hear? And I went, "Nothing. I can hear nothing." It's unbelievable. Right, we have a good...
There's another thing with tinnitus. If anybody's got tinnitus and they have their phone next to their head, quite often this can cause it. You know, if you've got your phone on and you know, connected to Wi-Fi and all of that, quite often I've heard people get rid of tinnitus when they've got rid of the phone. But there's many different causes, but that can be one of them.
Yeah, and wearables like Apple Watches, definitely. That has reduced tinnitus in 2 people I know for a fact. Headaches in Jane, both myself and her used to wear the Apple Watch. One of the best things we did was get rid of that, actually. So, right. Don't want to be too controversial. So Matthew is asking, what are your thoughts on eating venison? Do any of you eat it often or occasionally? I understand it's lean and quite expensive per kilogram. Anyone?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. The thing about it being lean ain't necessarily so. If Exhibit A, if you can see this is a cup. So yeah, obviously it's a cup. No, Sally brought back some venison neck from work. Now she works on a big old country estate, right, Welbeck Abbey, and they have a deer herd, and you have to cull the deer. Right. Now, this is also the case in many areas of the country, particularly the Scottish Highlands and Islands and stuff like that. And you get people who will go off for a weekend shooting deer, and they almost just give it away. So we can buy a whole deer carcass, a whole deer for £70. That's a roe deer. Now, so she brought back this venison neck 2 days ago. No, yesterday. I slammed it in the slow cooker, covered it in water, handful of salt, put the lid on high for 3 hours, turned it down to low all the way overnight until today. And I've just had that, and it's got proper wax, waxy fat on it. It's got a big layer of fat on the top. Venison can be fatty, not always, but if you go to a farm shop and buy it, you'll be paying more than beef. But the reality is, I think it's actually cheaper. But what you need to do is find somebody who shoots. But yeah, I love the flavor. I think it's great.
Anyone else want to talk about venison?
Not really, but just did you have some venison burgers at the festival at one point? They were really nice.
Yeah, they were popular too.
Yeah, really nice. And if venison is too lean, just make sure you always have some tallow to throw in with it. You can always up the fat, but those burgers were fantastic.
Yeah.
So get along to the festivals we have in the summer. We've got 2 in May, haven't we? And Ben's going to be doing some food.
I know. Only one in May. Carry On's cancelled.
Carry On's cancelled. Yeah.
Oh, no, we're doing 2 at John Gates' place, aren't we? So yeah, basically all I did was I ladled out some of the liquor from this, and it was just an amazing meaty broth, but with a huge layer of fat. It was fantastic.
Okay, let's go to the next question then. I didn't see Rich chomping at the bit over venison. I mean, I've eaten venison. I like it. Meat-tastic, which sort of reminds me of Harry Enfield and Paul Whitehouse. Yeah, mate, it's meat-tastic. He does a lot of work for charity and all that. Hi, folks. I'm 51 years old, female. Started carnivore at the end of October 23. Had some difficulties lately with puffy eyes, red marks around eyes, some hives, and increased heart rate waking me up. Do you think this is a histamine issue?
Quite possibly. It's more than likely an oxalate dumping problem, I should imagine. Some quality electrolytes, some form of citrate, preferably potassium over calcium. If it is a histamine issue, then you could try supplementing with some kidney. Kidney is a fantastic source of DAO, diamine oxidase, which will help lower histamine. Why not hit both angles? Because kidney is absolutely stunning. It's a nice fatty organ meat. I think it's absolutely incredible. One of my favorites, at least. But yeah, think about your potassium intake, potassium citrate. If you are suffering with oxalate dumping, that is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to combat that.
Yeah, that's nice, Rich. Anyone else?
No, it's exactly what I was going to say. I think that's typical at about that time, October or whatever, was it, 2023, going carnivore, and then that kind of time having oxalate dumping. My money would be on oxalates, stuff around the eyes and whatever. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first time I went keto, and it was about that kind of time where I ended up in hospital with a kidney stone. It's a typical time for kind of oxalate dumping. I know, in the carnivore world now, everything's blamed on oxalate dumping. Your car packs up, it's oxalate dumping, everything. But, yes, probably at that stage, yeah. And Bart agrees. Bart agrees, so it must be right.
There could be a few other issues there. If it is hives or some form of skin issue, it could be other forms of intestinal permeability. Maybe you're still consuming cheese or some form of casein from A2 milk. So that could also be another contributing factor. Some people suffer with intestinal permeability from eggs even, but it is far and few between generally when you're consuming more animal-based. But the best thing to do is stick to beef and lamb, grass-fed beef and lamb, and you know that you're on a winner.
Yeah.
And
I hate to say this.
Skin issues can happen as well, can't they? To around the eyes and stuff like that with oxalates. And also if the liver's stressed, because, the liver is the primary organ of detox, and then the lungs, I believe, and then the skin. And so if skin stuff is coming out, it can be a bit of a liver thing. So hang in there, eat the proper food. And I won't mention liver flushing because it's too controversial, but just carry on with the carnivore diet and flush your liver in the end anyway.
Well, talking of controversial, I mean, it could be a reaction to a medication or an injection. I mean, that's definitely a thing I've seen.
We can't possibly mention that, Stephen. How can you? How dare you question the government and Bill Gates?
Well, there you go. Right. But it has to be said, actually, doesn't it? Because it could have been that. PJ, greetings all. Whenever I go really low carb or try to go carnivore, I have awful heart pounding, which is kind of scary. I've tried electrolytes, but to no avail. Any advice?
When I first went keto, I didn't figure this out. And I got such bad heart stuff. I ended up in an ambulance going to hospital. 2012 it was. And, you know, my heart was skipping every other beat, pounding away, proper palpitations. And then I tried magnesium and that kind of helped and blah, blah. But eventually it was just the salt thing. It was my son. He came in from climbing one day, my eldest son. And he said, haven't you figured this out yet? He said, you just, you know, you take a load of salt in water, putting it on the food is not enough. But Ben and I have seen great results. And I think probably you guys too, probably, I don't know if you come across that, but just a teaspoonful of salt in some warm water, about an inch of water or something like that, swill it up, mix it up, swill it down, another gulp of fresh water or whatever to take the taste away. And if it doesn't work, try it again in 20 minutes, keep on going. You can't overdose on salt. You excrete what you don't need, but it can be really, really useful for stuff like that without any other electrolytes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good Celtic sea salt, not table salt.
Yeah.
Good point. That's a good point and well made. Warren Smith, tinnitus is a symptom of anxiety disorder as well. Stress can increase that. Yeah, and I think that's part of the inflammatory pathway. That's possibly why that happens. But yeah, I definitely think that as a contributing factor. Landa's there. Good evening, panel. Speaking of rabbit holes, my last competitive fight, kickboxing, was in 1996. I often wonder why, after weighing in, always had a pre-fight meal, high carb, low protein, low fat. Why did you do that, Landers? Well, that's what everyone was told to do, wasn't it? Carb load when they do anything athletic. But I think that was just what everybody did. Unless anyone wants to tell me different. No, they don't. So, right, we'll move on then. So has anyone... Oh, we've got Bart K watching. Yeah, what's shaking, kiddies? What's shaking? Question, here we go. So we got for Richard. Is Richard concerned about visceral fat buildup from all the endurance exercise he's doing? Dr. O'Mara shows it contributes to more visceral fat, which can be harmful.
Yeah, so this is one of those things that I keep on coming back to constantly. So I came away from bodybuilding because that wasn't healthy. Not the bodybuilding part, but the competing part, becoming or reducing your body fat to 2% and being almost transparent is it's not good for you. You go through an incredibly tough process of cutting, stripping, and messing around with electrolytes and salts and dehydrating. It's not a good place to be. So, that said, weight training is incredibly good for you. But I wanted to become more cardiovascular fit. I wanted to increase my endurance and my speed as far as running and cycling. I was invited by a local club that I was working with in regards to Ironman training. So I do run long distance. I do cycle long distance, but most of my training is split training. Now, I'm not aware of anyone else that does it this way, but understanding the cortisol is increased when we are training for prolonged periods of times, so technically beyond 45 minutes to an hour, I try to keep my training. So just the reason I'm so red in the face is just before we came on, I did a 40-minute cycle on an indoor trainer. 40 minutes is plenty. So if I want to do 80 minutes training, I will split it. I will do 40 in the morning and 40 in the evening, or I will do a run in the evening and a cycle in the morning, and vice versa. I do run longer. So if I'm competing in a half marathon, for example, then, that's around about 1.5 hours. And to prep for endurance events, you do have to spend more time in the saddle on the bike. But generally, most of my training is done in under an hour. So if I need to do 2 hours training, I will split it AM and PM. I've noticed that it allows the tendons and the ligaments and my muscles to heal and repair a lot quicker. I'm becoming way fitter in regards to my run times over 5K especially. They've been tumbling down immensely lately, and my power on the bike has absolutely gone through the roof. For anybody listening who's into cycling, I recently recorded a 280 FTP, and my current weight is 70K, so considerably lower than when I was competing, but that gives me a watt per kilogram of 4 watts per kilogram, which isn't too shabby for someone who was new to cycling. So that's how I get around it. Split training. I do AM and PM. I try not to do prolonged periods of training. Even when it comes to training for half marathon distances or longer, I still implement a split training protocol.
Yeah, Rich, could you sort of explain to people why there is this association between visceral fat buildup and endurance exercise then?
Yeah, it's to do with this increase. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and insulin is increased off the back of an increase in cortisol, and this will tell the body to store fat. So it's in simple terms. Now, eating can do this. Stress can do it. This is why a lot of us will gain lots of excess body fat, excess fructose. And I'm not talking just from fruit, but fruit can also do it. Fructans in grains, for example, can also implement that. And you do wonder how much of the visceral fat buildup in endurance athletes comes from the wheats and the grains that they eat. So that is another question that I would put forward, because all of the athletes within, the Ironman industry or Ironman area that I compete against and work with, every one of them carb loads. I mean, I get people carb loading before a park run. It's a 5K run. it's 3.1 miles. Why are you putting carbohydrate in? And you see them straight after refeeding with the granola bars and their boxes of pasta and all this sort of stuff. The fructans break down into fructose, the fructans in the grains. And fructose is a known contributing factor, especially to visceral fat. So I would argue as well that any information in regards to long distance training could be to do with excess grain consumption. But there's lots of levers to pull. But still, I don't want to put my body under excess stress in training. So I keep that to less than an hour when I'm able to. 45 minutes, high intensity, you're going to gain far more than you would, I believe, from running 3 hours at a much slower pace. And just my opinion, but those numbers are coming down.
Yeah, and I think I was sort of nudging you as well to talk about lectins, because they're quite powerful.
So lectins, which are found in these grains, grains contain lectins in the form of wheat germ agglutinin. They're not the only foods that contain lectins. Other foods, most vegetables, in fact, all foods contain lectins, but animal lectins do not seem to elicit the same response. In vegetables, it's in the form of phytohemagglutinin, but lectins will bind to insulin receptors and they'll signal the body to store 5 times more body fat than the effect of insulin being elicited by itself. So 5 times is an awful lot. This is why the caloric model is highly flawed. Bart Kay, who's on as in fact, we had Bart Kay on a podcast not so long ago going into how the caloric model is high. It's not the calories. Calories is a myth. You can't count calories you can't compare the energy value from a bowl of muesli to that from bacon and eggs for breakfast, because from the lectin perspective alone, if you were to consume a bowl of muesli that contained 500 calories and bacon and eggs that contained 500 calories, that lectin effect being signaling or binding to the insulin receptors, signaling the body to store 5 times more fat, is far more detrimental than eating your bacon and eggs. So quite literally, for the same caloric value, that bowl of muesli is signaling the body to store 5 times more fat. And then we have the intestinal permeability side of things. So the lectins will bind to the enterocytes on the epithelial cells lying in the gut. They'll cause the release of a molecule called zonulin, and zonulin release causes a gap in the tight junction between the epithelial cells, which is intestinal permeability. This leads to autoimmune disease. These lectins will travel into the subendothelial space where they will try to, they circulate in the blood, and the body will create antibodies to fight them because they shouldn't be there. And then through a process called molecular mimicry, the body starts attacking other proteins in the body that look the same. This is autoimmune disease. So if you suffer with any autoimmune issue, it more than likely comes from the lectins in the food that you eat. It can come from other sources, like we touched base earlier in regards to casein and alcohol, and there are a few other things. But lectins are the biggest contributing factor, or at least one of the biggest contributing factors to all ill health. That, along with seed oils. And again, you know, we can get into the seed oils if you want to. More damage in the carbohydrate, the vegetable oils. But here we are.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad I poked you into that corner there. That mention of 5 times more powerful than insulin, I think we're going to put the study for that on our Mighty Networks, aren't we, on our Fat Club, so people can get really into the weeds with that, because that is fascinating. And I think it's not talked about enough, personally, that lectins can be so deleterious. Right, now, a nice question for everybody. Jane's got a serious problem with eating meat. She's got a phobia. If I get a bit of gristle when I'm eating, I nearly throw up. So I can't eat mince. It makes me gag really bad if I get a crunchy bit. Is that something you've encountered, guys?
It was funny. I was listening to Anthony talking the other day, and somebody asked him, can you eat fat on its own? And he said that when he started, he'd have to cut a little sliver of fat on and put it with the lean meat and sort of dissect his ribeye steak even to get it down. And I remember that. And I remember, you know, just talking about them as wobbly bits. You know, I can't eat the wobbly bits. It makes me feel sick. It kind of goes away. You know, if you need to add some extra fat without the wobbly bits, just get some grass-fed fat, cut it into cubes, or, you know, get them to slice it up like bacon. So you get pretty much like beef crackling, if you know, beef. What do you call them? Scratchings, you know. Marvelous, really nice. But, you know, render down the tallow if you can't get the can't handle the wobbly bits, then just pour some tallow over something to up the fats, because you do need the fats. If you're going carnivore, you know, you can't just eat fillet steak all the time, apart from the fact that it'll break the bank. And it's funny when I go into the like a grass-fed farm or whatever, and we'll go in there and buy a whole load, kilos of fat, buy a load of liver, get a load of bones, and it's like kind of farmer's walk on the world's strongest man coming out with all that stuff. And then there's somebody coming out with like 2 fillet steaks, and they probably spent the same as we have. And there's just not enough. There's not enough nutrients in it. So as you go on and you get more used to it, you will. Nowadays, I have been there, really. You know, any gristle, any fat. Oh my God, I'm going to throw up. Oh God, it's like a Bush Tucker trial or something. But now I'm not asked. In fact, those bits actually taste the best. It'll go in time, but just, you know, if you need to add more fat, just get the tallow in and whatever, and don't worry about the wobbly bits, because you got the rendered fat and there's nothing chewy in there. And just, you know, I mean, this is going to sound weird maybe to people who don't get into this stuff, but get into EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping or something, and just say, you know, oh God, it's so disgusting, you know, and you've got these points that you tap on. Look it up, EFT on YouTube, if nobody's heard of it, and just get rid of these phobias, whether you're getting rid of a fear of flying or a fear of wobbly bits. You know, it can be really useful. But that stuff, when we just ate meat ancestrally, nobody would have worried about wobbly bits, right? It's something you can get rid of. You can get past that. I had the same thing.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. 10 years ago, when I first met Jane, she thought I used to eat like a Walt Disney princess. You know, oh, I don't want to touch any of this. And now I'm like a proper carnivore. You know, I will pick up the food and really chow down on it. So, Professor Bart Kay has interestingly put something up, which I was trying to remember what the channel was called, about tinnitus. Liam cures tinnitus, which is one of the best things I've seen on YouTube about tinnitus. And it's a guy called Liam, and he cures it. So how I didn't remember the title of that is beyond me. But there you go. Right, here we are. Warren Smith. Can eggs and dairy cause heartburn and indigestion? And I will put an appendix to that. If they can, how does that happen?
Can I jump in on that, because I've got so much experience on that, really. I remember years ago when I used to live on Rennies and PPIs, and I had heartburn all the time. The worst thing was my favorite breakfast, which was scrambled eggs on toast with a load of butter. And I would get the worst heartburn for the rest of the day. And now, having gone carnivore, I do not get heartburn. I mean, I got diagnosed with hiatus hernia and all of that, put a camera down and all that kind of. That was a comedy event. Maybe I'll talk about that experience at some point, but it was hilarious with the camera down there and the nurse asking me questions. How the fuck can I answer? But anyway, so I used to, I would go out at night to get more Rennies, to get the heartburn down. And then it disappeared as soon as I cut all the carbs and plants and whatever. Egg yolks, kind of a little bit of reflux, but the only time now that I ever get heartburn is when I have egg whites, and they absolutely affect me. And how does it work? I don't know. You know, there's a load of inflammatory things in there that can cause some issues. Maybe one of the other guys with some more scientific knowledge can explain it, but definitely. And if you combine it with dairy, like if I think, okay, I'll have some cheesy scrambled eggs, that's even worse. So it's very common. Eggs are a big heartburn trigger, even when on carnivore. So can anyone explain that? But it is a thing.
I was waiting for Rich to dive in there because he loves the science of all it.
Yeah, it's something that I did a presentation on not so long ago, but I can't remember any of it. That's not so helpful. I have noticed that I do suffer with indigestion occasionally with eggs, but I used to suffer incredibly badly before becoming carnivore. Again, lectins were to blame for me. The lectins bind to the mast cells in the gut, and they cause the release of histamine, which leads to acid reflux. So when I removed all of the grains and all of the breads and pastas and rice and all this, my heartburn went away. I don't get an awful lot anymore, but what I have noticed is the longer I've been living the lifestyle, the more susceptible I'm becoming to other things that are not grass-fed beef and lamb, which is driving me down a pathway to be a little bit more strict again. And I think it's not because I'm becoming intolerant to these things. I think this intolerance was always there. I think it's just my body now has the ability to recognize when I'm putting something in that it doesn't like. I notice that if I eat out occasionally, even when I tell the place that I'm eating that I'm allergic to vegetable oils, I can have a reaction then. These seed oils are not good for us whatsoever. They cause all sorts of issues, and they cause this electrophilic response, which is it's a xenophobic response that we get from a foreign body coming into the cell, which is basically everything that you need to know. This stuff is detrimental to our health, and I would question whether the foods that you eat may contain this. Buy your meat fresh. Buy it from the butcher. Aged meats, I think, can also cause issues. So a lot of people are into 40-day aged steaks and beef and all this sort of stuff. They don't confer a benefit to me. Best is fresh. So I think that's probably the best advice that I can give there. Eat grass-fed beef and lamb and eat it fresh.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm starting to suspect, Richard, that you're a bit lectinist. I think you're singling them out as the plant toxin of your major attacks. I'm horrified. You know,
it's
it's
I just when I was researching lectins and how detrimental they were, it baffles me that everything that we consume contains them. And even with the best will in the, so even when you gravitate into a ketogenic type lifestyle, and that does confer a massive benefit compared to a standard lifestyle. But and I was still consuming all of these foods, you know, and we've spoken about it lots of times previously. I would make my spinach and kale smoothies and I would add my black pepper and turmeric. And I was still way healthier than I was prior to that. And if you told me at the time that those things were causing me harm, I wouldn't have believed you, because I felt way better. And I think this is the problem within society. When you speak to a vegan, for example, who's 2 weeks into their journey and they're like, oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened. I wish I did this 10 years ago. You don't, because if you did it for 10 years, you probably would either be dead or incredibly unwell. You're healthier in spite of and not because of. It's not because you're vegetarian or because you're not eating meat. It's because you've taken out all of the other crap that's causing issues. So you can still eat these toxins and still be way healthier than you were when you're eating a lot of crap. But it's when I went down the path of looking into lectins and the foods that contain, and it's not just lectins, it goes well beyond that. All plants contain phytoalexins, these plant toxins, polyphenols, all of these things that we are told confer a benefit. They're detrimental to your health. You know, they're endocrine disruptors. They cause estrogen issues. They cause problems in men and women. Gynecomastia in men, all sorts of thyroid problems. And I'm not. If you gravitate into this arena and you are still consuming vegetables, but you are making every step possible in order to improve your health and well-being, and that is conferring a benefit, that's fantastic. But what I feel that I need to be doing is educating people in regards to the next step, should they be willing to take it, because armed with that knowledge, you can make an educated decision. Until you understand what damage that food, or not food even, we should say, is causing, then you can't make that decision. And I think once you understand that let's look at broccoli, for example. I used to love broccoli when I became ketogenic, and we're told that it's incredibly healthy for us because it cures cancer. Broccoli contains, or in fact, it doesn't contain, but the compound within broccoli is sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is touted as this miracle compound that fights and prevents cancer. It's used in chemotherapy. So there's a couple of things here. One, you wouldn't take a chemotherapy pill unless you had cancer, because taking chemotherapy kills every cell within the body. Secondly, sulforaphane doesn't exist in a healthy plant. Sulforaphane is created when the plant becomes under attack. It's a defense mechanism. When you bite into that broccoli plant, sulforaphane is created from glucoraphanin. Glucoraphanin binds to myrosinase and creates sulforaphane, which is a toxic isothiocyanate, which causes clastogenesis, damages DNA, and can contribute to cancer if you do not have it. But this sulforaphane compound is so toxic, it can't exist in a healthy plant. Yet when you tell somebody that's just gravitated into a ketogenic or, not so carnivore, but low carb lifestyle, that broccoli is bad for you, they look at you as if you were batshit crazy. And the fact is that these foods are toxic. But again, I'm also conscious, and I'm going off on a rant now, but these people need to make these incremental changes. I would love to see everybody go down and become carnivore and live a lion diet, eat nothing but grass-fed beef and lamb. But it's taken me 11 years to get to where I am now. And I think if you were to say to most people, just go and eat meat, it's too much of a far stretch. So this is why I promote a ketogenic, and I say ketogenic, we're all ketogenic when we're carnivore because it's a metabolic state, but the ketogenic way of eating, which would incorporate vegetables, because it's an incremental step. But ideally, remove them. They're full of lectins, phytoalexins, all of these other plant toxins, these tannins, phytic acids, all sorts of issue which block the absorption of all of these important nutrients. the phytic acid will block the absorption of zinc, iron, and magnesium, which is essential for the production of testosterone, for example. And even women need testosterone. All estrogen was once testosterone. All of these foods are toxic. And if you consume a food that contains any of these toxins, it can negate the body's ability to absorb the nutrients. So, a little earlier on, we were talking about food addiction and how, you wanted to man up in regards to, well, we are hardwired to chase dopamine and serotonin. But the problem is that if you are consuming foods that are devoid in things like vitamin B12, B6, folate, and iron and magnesium, then you are not going to be able to produce these compounds, these through the catecholaminergic neurotransmitter synthesis. We're not going to be able to produce, because the phytic acid will block the absorption of these cofactors like zinc, iron, and magnesium. And because we're hardwired to chase dopamine, the next quickest thing we can go for is a sweet treat, because this will give us that response. And it's a similar thing when it comes to serotonin with vitamin B12 and tryptophan. These are blocked by the foods that we eat. It's not just good enough to eat a food that contains these nutrients. If you are consuming foods that contain anti-nutrients, you are blocking the body's ability to absorb much of these nutrients. Rant over.
Yeah, man, excellent rant. Can I just say that I love that business about broccoli, because I tell people broccoli is even too toxic for itself. It keeps these toxins separate until you snap it. I say, one of those glow sticks where you sort of kind of snap it and the chemicals mix. And this is broccoli when you're chewing it up, you lunatics. And also the thing that you said about the honeymoon period. I always say this is the most dangerous thing about veganism. If you ask, if you've got somebody who's gone vegan and they're feeling great, it's the honeymoon period. That's it. Veganism, it's you get these great benefits straight away, but then you swap one load of plant toxins for another. They build up. Been there, had the kidney stones. But with carnivore, you get 30 to a little bit more days of, adapting with electrolytes and this and that and whatever. And then it's plain sailing. So it's the other way around, isn't it? You don't kind of get a honeymoon period with carnivore. You get a few little problems maybe, and then it's all plain sailing. But if anybody's out there and somebody comes along and says, "Oh, I feel so great on veganism," well, how long have you been? How long is it going to be before you're ranting and raving and your teeth are falling out and you say that's just part of the detox? Wake up.
Yeah, and I think people out there watching that don't know about this stuff will think, well, hang on, broccoli is natural, but of course it isn't. It's a byproduct of humans' intervention. So anyway, let's get into a couple more things. One of the good things about doing this
goes for cauliflower as well.
Yep.
The sulforaphane.
Thank you, Ben. Meat-tastic. I'm postmenopausal since 37 years old. Stopped my HRT approximately 3 weeks into carnivore. See, so I like these messages that back up what we're saying. Then we got a simple question. If I'm postmenopausal, would my estrogen be high, please? No, it would be lower. Well, it should be. You can get that tested, but your ovaries, once you have gone past menopause, tend to produce a lot less estrogen. But it isn't just about that raw level anyway. It's more about ratios. And Rich was talking about testosterone earlier. Women do need testosterone. It needs to be in a good ratio with estrogen. And this is why we try to get away from foods that are estrogenic, because your ovaries, your body is saying, let's have less estrogen naturally. And then we go and do something to put it back up. So it's very similar to like carbohydrates and diabetics. They don't want to have high blood glucose, but they go and eat stuff that's got lots of glucose. Anyway, right, here's a nice question. Anyone can dive in here. Infinite reaction. Any differences for women weight training on carnivore to men?
Go on, guys. I probably said way too much.
No.
Yeah. Go on. I can say that, but I'm sure you're going to say exactly what I'm going to say. So go on, Richard.
You fire away, Phil. Go for it.
Well, we're human beings. I honestly don't see the difference. I'll tell you the difference is, as far as I'm concerned, having run a gym, the guys come in, they want to get massive. The women come in, they want to just tone up, but never look like Arnie. And it's the same process. You know, the first thing that happens on the way to building muscle is toning up. And it's never going to happen with running machines and, you know, 0.5 kilo pink dumbbells. It's when they end up, you know, realizing that it hasn't worked unless they just get rid of their gym membership. And they'd sort of finally listen to me and say, right, there's a pile of rusty iron in the corner and a power rack. Get on that. It's going to work. So I don't know if anybody's got anything more specific than that, but I've trained a load of people. And once they do really good abbreviated training with the big multi-joint exercises, results happen. And they don't happen with pink dumbbells and treadmills. So that's my simplistic approach to it. We're all human beings. We all kind of react in the same way. Do some heavy training, high intensity interval training, abbreviated weight training, and take it all to failure, and it's all going to work, whether you're male or female. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I agree. We've done lots, haven't we, in regards to athletic performance training, building muscle, best protocols. So those are available to go back and look again. I think, you know, within the 4 minutes that we've got left, I don't think it'd be enough time to get into the mechanisms and the best way to activate mTOR and meal timings. But why wouldn't it be the same for women as it is for men? So I completely agree with Phil.
Well, you have to factor in the cycle, though, because there is 2 weeks where women are more, they have more strength. So you have to tell women, don't worry about your strength, your reps going down for 2 weeks. In fact, when I used to do training programs, we'd do 2 weeks, you're going to be here. And then in 2 weeks' time, you're going to progress. And then you're going to have 2 weeks where you underperform slightly in comparison, but the next 2 weeks after that. So you've got this sort of cycle, no pun intended. And then you've got a secondary cycle going up, because there is definitely a difference in strength and performance for the 14 days leading up and then 14 days after. I really wanted to very quickly say this, guys, to this one person here has said,
hang on. One sec. Can I just do a really quick one on that last one with the men and women? We can run over 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think there is a difference in that women are told that they're weaker than men and that they shouldn't do this kind of thing. It's not ladylike. It's like in a restaurant. It's not ladylike to eat a steak. I'll have a chicken salad while my guy has a steak. No, you know, there's nothing sexier than a woman ripping into a steak. But this was brought home to me when my missus started training. And all I had left was a trap bar and a load of Olympic plates in the garage. And she wanted to do, I'm really into 20 rep squats. I think 20 rep squats, massive amount of weight, you know, well, for yourself, good form, does more than most other things. So I said, okay, let's get you into some, we don't have an Olympic, we don't have a squat rack and whatever. So let's get into some 20 rep deadlifts with a trap bar. And I remember putting like a 20 kilo plate on either side. And she said, oh, I can't lift that. Oh, it's too heavy. It's too, you know, and there's something that gets in the mind of women that they're not strong. Eventually I showed her, you know, how to do that and that she could easily lift it. And it wasn't long before she was doing 100 kilos for 20 reps, which is actually pretty cool for a woman. And I tell you, what it does to their ass is amazing. You know, it's incredible. But it's also a psychological thing of, I can't lift that. I'm a woman. I shouldn't have to lift that. So that's another aspect of it, I think. And that's conditioning. So yeah, women are seriously strong if they want to be. Absolutely.
That's societal conditioning. I went to a big fitness expo many, many years ago. And they had sort of for fun, when you turned up, you did this grip strength reading. And Jane, who was at that time, I suppose, 45, 46, So we were amongst very young, very buff, young couples and big bodybuilders and stuff like that. And they divided it in between women and men. Long story short, Jane won that competition. She had the strongest grip in the entire event, and they did everybody. I was nowhere really. That didn't matter. But the point I'm actually going to get to is Jane was ahead of most of the men, actually, which I thought was pretty interesting. So you're right, Phil. The reason I want to get to this is because I have a video about this. So I'm due to have my blood tests on the 23rd this month. Finally, can't wait to see if I'm out of the pre-diabetes range, which possibly you will be. But I wouldn't get too hung up on the HbA1c. I would look at your fasted glucose, fasted insulin, and your C-peptide to see what's actually going on, because the HbA1c is okay as a guide, but those other things are much better. And if you've got a continual glucose monitor, that's even better. So let's finish with this last question. We've got quite a few messages, but let's do this one. So my other half, 50-year-old male, has been diagnosed high cortisol for 30 years, but no cure, in inverted commas, or treatment. Carnivore also since October. Do you think it will help?
Can I jump in on this? If in a couple of days, have a look at my YouTube channel or whatever, and see an interview with Sarah Pugh on this, and the whole business about getting the whole cortisol thing sorted, and how it's a circadian thing, possibly. It's not even a diet thing. To get out in the morning, get sunlight in your eyes, or the light through the clouds if you're in England, but it's all very useful to get set up for that. So you get the serotonin, and that converts into the melatonin, and then you've got that melatonin to actually release in the evening, when of course you've turned off your LED downlighters and you've got some red light, whatever. I'm always invisible in the evening on these calls, so red light in the evening, just very, very, very low light, and then you might sleep better as well. And the high cortisol thing, I think it's more of a circadian thing than it is a diet thing. Although carnivore diet, it's our ancestral diet, it's a no-brainer, but you need to get the light sorted to get that kind of thing.
The only thing I think is, does he drink coffee? Because coffee.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
I've been off coffee for 10 days now, but it definitely left me feeling in a cortisol-y state, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's our hour, so that's great. We missed Jonathan, I think. So
but I want to hear Richard explain it in proper, like, boffin terms. What's happening? I'm in suspenders. What's going on, Richard?
What's that in regards to the cortisol?
Yeah.
I think you guys have nailed it. To be honest, it's plain and simple, isn't it? Will the diet reduce cortisol? I believe so. Another fantastic comment with the coffee. Coffee is a known contributing factor to increasing cortisol. It's living the diet is going to reduce all of the other factors in regards to increase it. I've got you've nailed it with everything that you said. I've got no science that can further back it up, to be honest. But it's live the lifestyle and reap the rewards. There's only one thing that I wanted to jump on before we go quickly. I can see a comment from Warren in the comments in regards to why are we hardwired to chase dopamine if these things are not good for us? Well, dopamine is good for us. I just wanted to mention the fact that dopamine and serotonin, melatonin, all of these things are created naturally. It's the foods that we eat that block our body's ability to create these. So when we eat shit, we can't create it, and then we chase it through sugary fixes. Basically,
or they're elevated too much, too often. You see, this is the thing. Insulin's often painted as a bad guy, but insulin is essential, and so is cortisol. It's got to function. You know, if a tiger went into Phil's room right now, he would want some cortisol to be working so he could run out the window. I mean, seriously, it is more. We should really always keep in mind it's about inappropriate levels, too frequent bursts of those things, and is either too highly elevated or there's not enough. So when you eat this way, it tends to normalize a little bit. And I think I'm going to get very flouncy with Phil because I've got a science degree, mate. I could have talked about that. But anyway, no, I'm fine. I think we should end with a final talk about the war on health. If you've watched this far, I want to thank you for that. I'm hoping that you liked it. If you've watched this far and you haven't liked it, well, I'm even more impressed. So thanks for sticking the course. But anyway, Phil, Ben, do you just want to very quickly just finally talk to those people about the event?
Go on, Ben, because I rabbited about it earlier on. Go on.
No, it was just looking forward to it. It's not going to be streamed. It's not going to be recorded. There's only one way to experience it, which is going to be in the room. So we're doing the event, me, Phil, Dr. Sarah Pugh, Dr. Rachel Brown, Dr. Ahmed Malik, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, all in one day. Carnivore lunch, carnivore banquet at the end. And if you stay over Saturday night, then we're going to do a walk in the peaks as well on Sunday. So you just get to hang out more. And it's going to be an intimate event. That's the thing. It's absolute maximum 200 people, but we're not going to have anywhere near that in the middle of January. So, you know, if you really want to, you know, to hang out with us, there's a pre-event dinner on the Friday evening at 5:30 in a local pub. I've chatted with the chef. He's mad about meat and can't wait to put on an amazing spread for us, including oysters and all kinds of stuff. And venison, by the way, if you like it. But there's only 2 places left. We're booking a room for 26 people, and we've got 24 places already booked. So there's only 2 left there. And you put in the code. Is it GB Carnivore, all in caps? I think is the code to get £30 off. But you have to do it before the weekend, because that's when we need to give the final numbers to the venue. So you've got 3 days. Get in there. Code GB Carnivore, and the address to type in to your browser is waronhealth.uk. Very simple.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Just let me say seriously, it's all the stuff we can't put online. So many people have asked us, can you stream it? We need to see it in New Zealand, Australia, America, that kind of thing. No, you can't, because this is everybody completely uncensored. So
in fact, we're going to require everybody when they enter the seminar to sign something saying, I'm not a journalist, I'm not a blogger, and I'm not going to record this in any way. It really is that. We want everybody to be completely free to say whatever the hell they want.
Yes, we might even use swear words and talk about inappropriate things.
Looking them up, I'm going to use many.
Yeah, let's not now, because we're on YouTube. So anyway,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you want to hear us swearing like troopers about the war on health, come along to the Peak District.
Fine. Right. I'm going to press end stream. Thanks, everybody, for the messages, and thanks for the support. It's been great that you all turned up. Bye.
See you next time.
See you later.